Hello everyone, my name is Branquinho. I'm a professor at the Polytechnic Institute of Porto Alegre. And first of all, I would like to thank the opportunity to share this work with the community. Before moving directly into the content of the study, I would like to frame this presentation within the broader context of the European Network of Football Connection, using data analytics to revolutionize talent identification and training. In fact, in my opinion, this initiative represents an extremely relevant collective effort developed through the year with the goal of integrating science, technology, and professional practice and European football. It is within this spirit of valuing applied scientific evidence that I present this study today. In addition, I would like to congratulate everyone involved for the work developed within this network, which creates an ideal context to discuss key topics such as aging, longevity, and performance in professional football. Related to our article, it's important made a contextualization regarding the relevance of the study. In this respect, when we talk about the agenting performance in professional football, it is almost inevitable to think about examples of exceptional longevity. One of the most paradigmatic cases is, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo. Even after the 38, he continues to compete at the highest international level, maintaining very high physical, competitive, and performance standards. In fact, examples like this raise highly relevant questions for sports science and professionals in the fields. Namely, to what extent is this longevity exceptional? Which physical capacities are effectively preserved with age and which inevitably decline? And most importantly, how can we understand aging in football beyond extraordinary individual case? It is within this framework that the study the aging curve, how age affects physical performance in elite football, emerged. As we know, modern football is an extremely demanding sport from a physical perspective. It is characterized by repeated high-intensity actions like sprints, accelerations, decelerations, rapid change of direction, and a high metabolic load over the 19 minutes of the game. With the increasing intensity of the game and the widespread use of the performance monitoring technology, it has become possible to objectively analyze how these demands change across the athlete's age. The relevance of these studies lies precisely here. Rather than relying on perceptions or isolated cases, it used a real competition data to answer a central question. What is the true aging curve of physical performance in professional football? To carry out this objective, in terms of methodology, this study is based on data collected in the real context competition. This gives it a high level of ecological validity. In total, 5,203 individual match performances were analyzed across 351 official professional matches. The sample included 98 male players aged between 18 and 39 years old. This age range is particularly relevant. It allows observation of earlier career development, career consolidation, and more advanced stage of athletic aging. To collect physical performance data, we used the Catapult Vector 7 GPS system, widely validated in the literature and commonly applied in elite football. This system quantified variables such as maximum speeds, number of sprints, accelerations, decelerations, high intensity actions, and aerobic endurance indicators. The data were then organized by age groups and statistically analyzed. This allowed to identify patterns of progression, peak of performance, and decline. Based on this analysis, they constructed what they describe as the aging curve of physical performance in professional football. After that, some results emerge, and the results show clearly that physical performance in football does not evolve linearly with age. In fact, there is a phase of progressive improvement followed by a relatively short peak and then a gradual decline. More specifically, peak performance varies slightly depending on the physical capacity analyzed. Let's look specifically at the variable. For example, to maximum speed peaks, this peak occurs approximately around to 25.7 years. Aerobic endurance peaks around 24 years. Explosive actions such as sprints and high intensity accelerations peak slightly later around 26 years of age. And this information could be seen in this figure 2. In figure 3, we show us after the age of 30 and more, clearly from around 32 onwards, a consistent decline in high intensity actions and explosive capacity is observed. This decline is progressive, it is cumulative and not abrupt, but it is sufficiently pronounced to impact competitive performance of the players. One particularly important finding is that the aerobic endurance is relatively better preserved with aging, showing a smaller decline than speed and explosive actions. So after these results, it's important made some contextualization in terms of the literature to check the veracity of our findings. And maybe these results, it's important to and help to contextualize cases such as Cristiano Ronaldo. On average, explosiveness and speed decrease with age. This means that older players tend to perform fewer high-intensity actions. However, aerobic endurance, when properly trained, can be maintained for a longer period. From a physiological perspective, this pattern is consistent with what we know about aging. There is a progressive reduction in muscle power, fast twitch fiber recruitment, and contraction velocity. In contrast, cardiorespiratory adaptations can be preserved through appropriate training. This helps explain the greater stability of endurance-related capacities. It is important to emphasize that these results represent average strengths. Individual variability is high, and factors such as playing position, playing style, injury history, accumulated career load, and training load quality can significantly influence each player's aging trajectory. Therefore, chronological age alone should not be viewed as an absolute indicator of decline, but as one variable to be interpreted alongside objective performance data. So, based on this, some conclusions arise, and this study demonstrates that physical performance in professional football reached its peak on average between 24 and 26 years of age. From that point onward, a gradual decline begins. This decline is particularly evident in explosive capacities such as speed and sprinting, especially after the age of 32. On the other hand, aerobic endurance shows great longevity. This helps explain why many players are able to extend their careers by adapting their playing style and tactical role. These findings reinforce the idea that the aging in football does not imply a uniform loss of all physical capacities, but rather than a reorganization of the athlete's functional profile over the time. Finally, and most importantly, some practical applications that can arise from the results and conclusions of the study. And from a practical standpoint, this study has several key implications. First, in physical preparation, it reinforced the need for age adjustment training programs with particular attention to load management, recovery strategies, and injury prevention in older players. Second, in career management, the data supports more realistic planning of competitive longevity, helping clubs and athletes align expectations and long-term strategies. From a tactical perspective, coach can better exploit the preserved capacities of experienced players such as positioning, game intelligence, decision making, and technical efficiency. Finally, in squad management, understanding the aging curve can support contract decisions, player rotation strategies, and strategy use of players through the season. In summary, these studies provide a solid scientific basis for understanding the impact of age on physical performance in professional football. And it demonstrates that aging, when properly managed, can be strategically integrated into high performance environment. Before closing, I would like to sincerely thank for the opportunity to share the content of this work. It has been a pleasure to contribute to this discussion and be a part of the context that values scientific evidence and its practical application in professional football. I would like I would also like to emphasize that I'm fully available for any further clarification questions or discussions. Please feel free to contact me through the contact details that has been shared. Finally, I would also like to say a word of thanks to the great team that made this study possible, and thank you very much for your attention.